A few months ago, I celebrated my 20th year of marriage to Samantha with our three children, Judy, 16, Kayla, 13, and Philip, 15. My name is Martin, and I am a happy father and husband, or so I thought until I became one. When we got married, Samantha was only 20 years old, and I was her first and looking for love. I was 2 years older and had several girlfriends before we got married. Samantha was a young girl, 5 feet 6 inches tall, with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a huge weight of 105 pounds. Our marriage was wonderful, and we tried our best to provide our children with a comfortable home and a happy environment. Over the past 20 years, we have spent a lot of time together, creating everything as a family. There were happy moments, birthdays, first days of school, theater performances, graduations. Even difficult times only strengthened us. Philip suffered broken bones from football. The girls had sprained ankles, and Samantha and I were dealing with her battle with cancer. I remember spending days in the hospital, supporting her through chemotherapy and blood transfusions, taking care of the children and trying to keep our family together. Her recovery 7 years ago bonded us even more, and we thanked God that she had beaten cancer and that we were still together. As you can imagine, raising 3 children, paying bills, and raising money for their college futures was very stressful. The first thing was working out at the gym and stress over appearance and diet. Over 20 years, we could have gained a pound or two a year, but we both didn't care because we were both too busy taking care of our future children. I was a full-time production manager for an engineering company, and Samantha was a purchasing director for a small manufacturing firm. We both spent a lot of time working, but always tried to be there for our children. Our life became settled and calm, but love and intimacy always reigned in our relationship, and we found time for intimate connection and concern for the happiness of each other in bed. We didn't pursue the sexual fantasies we read about. We were more discreet, but we both felt happy and satisfied with our intimacy and relationship. 4 years ago, we got new neighbors, Dorothy and Wayne. They were younger than us, without children, and often had parties on the weekends. Dorothy was a fitness instructor and had a great figure, and Wayne, as befits a young man, was in good shape, especially in the past that his wife was as beautiful as Dorothy. When Samantha turned 38, she began to worry about her excess weight, which was about 30 pounds. This didn't bother me, since most of me have gained about 20 extra pounds over the years due to devoting time to training and self-care. Dorothy told Samantha that she was a beautiful woman and could easily lose weight if she started going to the gym with her. 2 years later, when Samantha was almost 40 years old, she had dropped to 110 pounds, giving her the body of a 20-year-old. Her transformation was vibrant, and I was always in awe of her existence. Samantha became a completely new person, confident and sexy. Our sex life was transformed by her new energy. A new, young, and full life inspired me to strive for my own happiness. With a new body came a new style of clothing, following fashion trends. Under the guidance of her friend Dorothy, Samantha became a presence in bolder and sexier outfits. The newly edited Samantha enjoyed her body, taking pride in its existence and showing it off in colorful and fashionable outfits. And although I was initially worried, Vidya, since she is a sexy young woman at work while I kept my balance in my father's body and in an old suit, when we were together, I was always the man she loved. I told her that appearance does not matter. I love her as she was and is. For my 40th birthday, I threw a great party for her, inviting all our friends and colleagues. We rented a group room at an outdoor hotel, booked, and had a full party under the open bar. Samantha was in her erotic outfit, with new shoes, and looked like a supermodel. Watching the men turn to look at her, I realized that she liked this attention. Her confidence was through the roof, and she was more open and free than ever before, moving away from the traditional 40-year-old mother. It was a wonderful party, and she made sure to express her gratitude to Dorothy for helping her regain her youth and for helping the whole process. of her and my hincham, maintain and improve her condition. So I admitted that it was interesting to watch her new appearance and more open sexual behavior. However, I didn't like the way she slow danced and flirted with some of her younger coworkers. In all of the years of marriage, she had never exhibited this behavior, and it earned me respect. But I decided to give her the opportunity to enjoy the evening and discuss it later. The night after the party, when I experienced this, she apologized and explained that she never meant to make me jealous or uncomfortable, and that it wouldn't happen again. She had explained that she was just carried away by the atmosphere and had a little drink. Life went on, and everyone returned to their usual rhythm, with the exception that Samantha sometimes returned home late due to training at the gym. I tried to be home with the kids and cook dinner on the days she came home late. On Thursday, Philip had more classes and needed a ride home. Samantha agreed to pick up Philip from school on Thursday, since his school was a few miles from our house and crossed smart roads. Philip regretted that he was taken away, and there was a desire to go home on foot. After all, he is already 15 years old, and he believes that he does not need his parents to choose him. I explained to him that some of the roads that lead him to cross are too dangerous for him. If he wants to participate in the school club, he will have to come home with us, no exceptions. He agreed to this, and I picked him up every day except Thursdays, when I agreed with the staff. And for Mom, Thursdays became a routine. One day, when Samantha was busy at work and forgot to pick him up, after 40 minutes, Philip decided to walk home with him. This was one of the subsequent occasions when someone in the family saw me upset. Samantha apologized and was upset to see that I was upset and let us know that she understood how we felt. She promised that this would not happen again, and when I calmed down, I admitted that I had made a mistake. No harm, no belonging, and life at the friend's house was the same as before again. That night, she came back to me in bed, and we continued our normal existence. After 2 months, financially, everything was good, the job was stable, and the family seemed happy, except for me. In recent weeks, I noticed that our sex life had decreased from 5 nights a week to 1 or 2, and the quality of it was no longer the same as before. Samantha began to be more attentive to her appearance, paying more attention to facial skincare, hairstyle, and manicure every week. It seems that as she reached the age of 40, she began to strive to go back. The closet was filled with new clothes and shoes, and when I voiced my concerns about the costs, I was met with an angry and persistent wife insisting that it was all for me. I wanted to tell her that despite her efforts, I do not maintain respect in relationships and intimate life. I missed old Samantha, but the politician said he loved her just as much as before. There were more late evenings spent at the gym and a few meetings with Dorothy, our neighbor and instructor. That's when I decided to take her for a weekend to restore our relationship and get everything back to normal. I loved Samantha, but it was necessary to stand on my own 2 feet and put everything in order. This coming week, I plan to take her out to dinner on Friday night to tell her about our vacation plans over a romantic table. On Tuesday evening, I told her that I had made a reservation for Friday and had already arranged for her parents to come and look after the children. The next morning, I watched as she arrived for the day at work. She was wearing a new dress that seemed a little out of work style, along with dark tights and red high heels. Her appearance, although seductive, is too provocative for the office. When I found out about her outfit, she explained that the leaders were the leaders, and she changed the impression on them. I realized it was best not to start an argument with her, so I went home the next morning wondering if we could ever go back to our old Samantha. I loved this one, but not the new version. Perhaps my decision stemmed from the fact that I never gained weight, and when we were together, we no longer called the picture a happy couple. Now, I had a wife who was a trophy, but nothing of the genuine love and unity we once shared. Visita, I prayed that our weekend would help us get back to each other. Unfortunately, the separation that week disrupted all my travel and dating plans. On Thursday at 4 p.m., I received a call from Holy Cross Hospital. I was giving a presentation at our staff meeting when the call came that Philip was in the emergency room and required emergency surgery. I was told that I had to come immediately. I met my car and, as if madly, rushed to the hospital, a place located only 15 minutes away. I tried to call Samantha several times, but to no avail. I called her parents, asked them to pick up the girls, and went to see my brother at the hospital. Left Samantha messages and texts several times, worrying about where she might be. She always kept an eye on my calls, but today, for some reason, she remained silent. Upon arrival at the hospital, doctors met me. I accompanied all the necessary documents, took insurance, and spent a minute with my son, who was unconscious and bloody. It looked terrible, seeing his broken leg and cuts and bruises all over his body. I kissed his forehead and felt tears running down my cheeks as he was wheeled into the operating room. I was alone and terrified because I was starting to worry about Samantha again. I was shown into the surgery waiting room where I met my daughters and parents, Samantha, Edward, and Mary. They looked to me for answers, and I told them everything I knew, including the poisoning of their daughter. We came to the conclusion that Samantha did not pick up Philip from school, and he decided to walk home. I expressed my concern for Samantha because she did not answer the calls and did not pick up Philip. We realized the unusual nature of the situation as we stood in a separate waiting room and tried to understand what was happening. "Let me call her office again and find out what's going on," I said, dialing the number. "Hello, Samantha's patient office," Monica replied. "Hi, Monica. Do you know where Samantha is?" I asked to rest. "Hi, Martin. No, I haven't seen her since lunch," she replied. "Monica, our son Philip was in an accident and is now in the hospital. I urgently need to find her. Do you know who she had lunch with?" I asked with alarm. "Yes. She left at 1 p.m. with David, one of our supplier's sales representatives," she replied. "Can you give me his phone number? Perhaps her phone is not working and his contact will help me find her," I asked. After waiting a little, Monica returned to the phone. She found his business card on the table. "The number is there, 560-455-5641, he said. "Thank you. If you find out anything, have her call me right away," I replied, hanging up and immediately dialing the specified number. No answer, just voicemail. Suddenly, an ominous feeling came over me, knowing that my wife could have disappeared along with the seller, all on the day of our son's surgery. The stress caused tears to flow down my cheeks. Samantha's mom, Mary, hugged me and told me to hang in there, and when I heard Judy's voice, anger flared within me. "I found Mom and Dad," she shouted, holding the phone in her hands. I turned to her. "What do you mean?" "Mom installed the Find Me app on our phones, and it works on her phone too. She's here," she said at the flashing red dot on the screen. "Great. Where is it?" I asked. She zoomed in on the image on her phone, and soon the place began to glow. It was the Marriott Hotel downtown. Everyone turned their attention to me in amazement. It immediately became clear to me how to contact her. But unfortunately, if my idea works, it will mean the end of my marriage. Everyone watched with curiosity as I pressed buttons on the phone. I called the hotel and requested to be connected to Mr. David Kelly's number. I was put on hold, and soon I heard the phone ringing. After 8 rings, the man finally answered in a disappointed tone. Obviously, I disturbed him greatly. "Hello? Hello? Is this Mr. Kelly?" "Yes. How can I help you?" "Could you pass the phone to your father?" There was a slight delay before he answered. "Sorry, the assistant is not available right now. You may have the wrong number." In a focused, controlled tone, I said, "David, listen carefully. I am her wife, and our son is now in critical condition in the hospital. Please pass the phone to her. I need to give her the details immediately." After a long silence, my indignation burst out. "David, if she finds out about the death of her son before I am with her, I will find you and, do what I will do. It's clear? Now connect us via telephone." I heard the sound of the phone moving, and then Samantha's voice was heard. "Hi," she replied with a nervous tone. While she expressed concern, I am stoic and in control. Huh? "Samantha, listen carefully. Our son Philippa was hit by a car when he came home from school. He is currently in surgery and is in critical condition. After you finish your business, come to surgical waiting room number 6 at Holy Cross Hospital. Do you understand?" The sound of her scream came as I was disconnected from the call. At that time, I was so absorbed in this influence that I forgot that my 2 daughters and my wife's parents were in the room and heard our conversation. Now they looked at me in complete amazement. My body had little control over the waves of emotion that were coursing through me that day. Hearing my wife talking on the phone to her lover made me cry. This was the first time I cried in front of my family. The pain of the tragic loss with Philip and the disappointment in my wife was so deep that I could no longer control my emotions and strength. I fell to my knees and cried, and the children hugged me and cried. Mary and Wayne stood nearby and joined in our mourning. It was a sad but rewarding moment, and I knew I needed strength for everyone. I stood up, kissed my daughters, wiped away my tears, and said to everyone present, "I'm sorry for what just happened, but I lost control of one of the conversations. Yes, it seems Samantha spent the day with one of her colleagues and forgot pick up Philip. She is with him now, but I am sure that I am aware of what happened. She will come soon. Please, keep her away from me because I'm not sure how to behave in this state." I saw anger in Samantha's mother's eyes and read Desdores. As Mary had always been an independent woman and did not approve of her daughter's changes in behavior, she had told her about this more than once, but she would never have imagined that a little girl was capable of such a thing. At that moment, I was so engrossed that I forgot, because my 2 daughters and Judy's parents were still crying, and one of the girls asked, "Dad, is Mom cheating on you?" I replied, "Perhaps, but it's better to ask her about it when she returns. For now, let's focus on praying for your brother. He needs our prayers right now. We can talk to Mom later." In a Marriott hotel room. "Oh my God, I need to run now. I forgot to pick up my son from school and he was hit by a car. It's all my fault. My sweet boy is on the operating table and my husband, he found out about everyone and I really screwed up. I don't know what to do," Samantha whispered, getting dressed in a dress and heels. She grabbed her purse and rushed to the elevator, turning her phone back on. "Samantha, what about you and me?" asked David. We just don't exist, idiot. It was a damn mistake. Listen, don't call me again." "I need it," she replied, briefly glancing at the screen. As the elevator reached the first floor, the phone began to buzz again, whistling with dozens of texts and messages. She ran into the car and drove to the hospital, not thinking about anything but her son. Along the way, a feeling of guilt washed over her like a wave, and tears would not stop flowing from her eyes, no matter how many times she wiped them. This should never have been done, and she realized how stupid she had been. She realized that she had put herself before her family, and at that moment she decided that she was no longer a girl. Having parked the car at the main entrance to the hospital, she rushed towards him, shouting that she needed to get to her son. The security guard, who had seen a similar situation before, silently took the keys from her and led her to the waiting room. Waiting room scene. 20 minutes after she left the hotel, she walked into the surgical waiting room and was confronted with the fetus. Mary walked up to her daughter and suddenly slapped her across the face with such force that it would have knocked a grown man's legs off his feet. Samantha's head began to spin, her face turning red from her mother's blow. "You walking wench! We raised you better than this! All your fault! I hope you're happy!" she hissed through tears. "Mom, that's not true," Samantha tried to object. Samantha with a sad expression. "Samantha, stop it. We all know what you did today. It's a shame you didn't care more about your son than your lover. Now your son is fighting for his life because you were with another man." It was at that moment that our daughter Judy screamed, sobbing, "I hate you. Yeah, it was a damn train wreck." Samantha looked away from me, But when she saw my expression, she came back and left, sitting on one of the chairs away from us. We sat for the next 3 minutes, not understanding what was happening to Philip, until the doctor came to talk to the family. He talked about all the broken bones they were treating and the punctured lung that was already under control, but the main problem was in the database. He explained that Philip had lost a lot of blood and was in serious danger. He said they needed blood and wanted to take some samples to see if we could donate. Of course, we all agree. While we were waiting for our blood to be drawn, I looked at Samantha and asked her, "Samantha, will we learn anything from the blood tests? Is Philip my son?" Tears flowed from her eye more than ever. She hid her face between her knee and cried furiously. My heart sank with grief, but we had to know the truth. The blood turned out to confirm that Philip was indeed my son, and we both donated several pints of blood. A few minutes after we took the tests, I asked everyone to be alone with Samantha. When we took this opportunity, I looked at her, trying to understand what was happening. She avoided my eyes, and I noticed that she was confused. Her clothes were in sloppy condition, and it was obvious that she had left the room in a hurry. "Samantha, you look terrible. You haven't combed your hair, your stockings are out of place, your makeup is smeared. Could you show at least some respect for yourself and for us?" My words made her raise her head and talk for the first time since we arrived. "He's not my boyfriend. Please don't say that. There is no one between us. I love only you." "Samantha, if he's not your boyfriend, then what's going on? Are you just sleeping with random guys? Please respect me. I'm not an idiot. You've been rejecting me in bed for 2 years now. Even yesterday you rejected me citing a headache. Today, you wanted to be in shape for him. Just go home, get ready, and then I'll come back here. Our children and your parents shouldn't see you like this. Until Philip gets better, let's not discuss divorce." "Divorce? Martin, please don't talk like that. I love you. We will get through this. We need to discuss our future, but not now. Right now, I need to be with Philip. I need to focus on him, on his recovery. Please go home. If you need, I will ask my father to take you or call a taxi. But now you need to leave the room." Samantha stood up, tears still streaming down her cheeks. "Sorry, I'll leave," she whispered. A couple of hours later, Samantha returned. This time she was without makeup, in jeans and a sweater, with her hair in a ponytail. She stopped crying, but looked tired and humiliated. She was a caregiver next to my parents, and our daughters were with me. I explained to the girls that we needed to support their mother, and most importantly, focus on Philip. He promised that we'd talk about everything later, but now it's important to be together, like at home. So we spent 2 days visiting Philip in turn. Finally, on the 3rd day, the doctors brought news. Philip would be fine. He still had time in the hospital, but would be able to go home in a week. We all hugged and cried with happiness as we received good news. Samantha suffered from sympathy for me, but I responded with understanding, remembering my girls. Samantha's world collapsed. She was shocked and did not know how to re-enter our family and save her marriage. Due to the fact that the family took turns in the hospital, Samantha and I did not have the opportunity to sleep. But on the 3rd day, I decided to tell Samantha that I wanted to return home. "Samantha, when Philip gets better, I'll sleep at home again. I don't want you in my bed. Maybe move your things to the guest room." "Please, Martin, don't do this. Please don't kick me out. You know I love you. At the moment, until Philip recovers completely, we simply do not exist. You care about our children, and your help in Philip's recovery is invaluable. I don't consider you my wife anymore." She cried again, but understood my words and went into the guest room. I explained the situation to the girls, and they understood. We agreed not to tell Philip what was happening until he recovered. I turned the living room into a recovery room for Philip, rented a hospital bed and wheelchair, hired a day nurse, and prepared for his return home. Since Philip is in the living room and cannot move, he does not notice how we sleep, while the girl keeps our secret. His recovery was our top priority. Insurance and litigation. The truck driver, who turned out to be an ex-con, was hired by a large publicly traded pharmaceutical company, Scientific Laboratories for Money. He conducted background checks and checks, which ended up being a costly mistake. The criminal investigation found the driver was vaping, was intoxicated, and texting on his phone at the time of the charge. The lawsuit received national attention due to high crime rates and dissatisfaction with pharmaceutical companies. Our lawyers realized the seriousness of the case and filed a dollar petition with the court. After hearing the whole story, the jury realized that the company was in serious trouble and suggested strict criminal penalties to avoid paying even more punitive damages. This calmed our anger and sadness somewhat, but the conditions provided the best medical treatment and physical therapy for Philip. It also secures his future, pays for college, and allows him to take time off from work to be with Philip for the 18 months he needs to make a full recovery. Samantha's thoughts. When my mother slapped me in the face, the world around me suddenly lit up. I looked around and saw those whom I had let down and offended. Feelings of remorse, guilt, pain, and failure racked my body, and I wanted to simply disappear. I squirmed, but I was perceived as an atrocity. The pain intensified when Judy expressed her hatred towards me and wished me dead. I could just cry and feel sorry for myself. The thought that I was to blame enveloped me in fear and sadness. I think about explaining that I didn't have an affair, that it was a mistake, but my father interrupted my objections, told me to stop lying, and remembered that we weren't here. If I had just remembered that I would take my son and not preferred to another man. I realized my guilt, and if Philip doesn't cope, I won't be able to live with it. When we were asked to donate blood, the hatred in that room was unbearable, especially when Martin asked if Philip was really his son. How could he think that? Then I realized that they were thinking about me, and again I wanted to cover myself. After a while, I was able to stop crying. Then Martin asked everyone to leave us alone. I suddenly tensed and didn't want to look at him. When he determined my condition and the lack of stockings, I realized that the hotel called without thinking about my appearance, because my great desire was to see Philip. The moment it dawned on me, I was wrong. He was right. I wanted to go home, run away, and be with Philip when he woke up. Then, I got angry when I heard him call David my boyfriend, and I had to correct him. But when Martin explained that either David was my boyfriend or I was just a walker, my arguments became irrelevant. Divorce? Why would he say this? Oh, God, no, not this. This should never have happened. I can't lose Martin. I love him. David was just a distraction. I know it was wrong, but there is no love. He should have realized it was a mistake, and I would never do it again. He loves me. I know that. I need to find a way to fix this. But how? Rehabilitation. My wife and daughter took part in the recovery process. When Philip left the ward, we brought him home and were introduced to his new transition, which included a special hospital bed, a remote control for a 65-inch TV, and video games. We strived to provide him with maximum comfort during rehabilitation. Several day nurses helped us, which was a real blessing. Mary and Wayne came every day to survive, and together with our daughters, we achieved a new normal. Wayne and I spent a lot of time discussing various issues and my plans. Her parents only wanted the best for our family and offered psychological help to help us maintain our family relationship. I talked to them several times that I was still not ready for this, and that I wanted to continue helping Philip in his difficult time. To Samantha, only within the framework of Philip. After hearing the girl say that her mother had made some mistake, he realized that this was a serious problem. He was always the most sensitive in the family, and one day, when we were alone, he asked me what was going on and asked me to forgive her. He reminded me that my mother loves me and he sees how sick she is. I had to wipe away a tear and tell him that our problems were none of his business and focus on getting better. At this point, I realized that it is necessary to take direct action on recovery and make some decisions. I told Samantha that we talked over dinner on Friday night. This Friday night, the kids were watching Mary and Wayne. We went to our favorite Italian restaurant, and after a few drinks, I decided it was time to talk and asked the waiter to give us some time before we ordered. This was the first time since that fateful day that I spoke directly to Samantha. Until that night, I only followed questions or carried on conversation. So, for the first time since the incident, I spoke directly with Samantha about our future together. I know it's been hard for you, and it's unfair that you sleep in the guest room. After the accident, I didn't have time to think about our future, but in the last few days, I think I have a solution to end the stress that our situation will bring to the family. I'll look for an apartment near the house, and you'll move into the utility room again. As soon as Philly is back on his feet, I begin the poaching process. I would like him to get better before he finds out the whole reason for our separation. I saw a tear fall from her eyes as I finished my third glass. I felt like a boy who had lost his best friend and soothed my tears over my loss. All my years of love for this woman had been destroyed by one act of selfishness, and now we were both paying for her actions. Martin, is there any way you can forgive me and allow me back into your life? Samantha, I love you, and probably always will. With the exception of Philip's accident, losing you has been the weakest deterrent in my life. I just don't see a way back. Your selfish act of putting your boyfriend before our family and betraying my love is something I'm not sure I'll ever face. Our son Philip almost died because you needed to be with David and put yourself in my place. Please don't say his name. I've hated myself since that day. I don't blame you for hating me. What else I did was unforgivable. What's worse, I betrayed the only person I've ever loved for this? For a stupid affair with a man I never wanted in my life? I know I screwed up and didn't earn anything from you or the girls, but what can I do? Samantha, I don't see it that way. You haven't done anything. You haven't corrected the situation, and that shows me that you really are all new. And looks, I'm sure you can train any man you like, I said sarcastically. Okay, I earned it, but after all the accident I did, it was with Philip. I tried not to think about what I did to you. Let me make things right and give me another chance. Please, though. Do what you want, Samantha. I'm not making any promises here. I'll wait a couple of weeks before I start looking. I'm annoyed by the lack of sex and your narcissism. Should I assume that you don't care? I was there during the apartment. You threw everything away. This love is like a diaper full of shit. I gave away what my man once had. Let him use you, and God knows what he did to him. How can I survive this, Samantha? David before this. I've never met him before. It was just one time, I swear. There was no one else. That's not my question. I'm asking how long have you been seeing David? Obviously, you had plans for that day. I'm guessing you had lunch, maybe had drinks after hours, sent special messages. I'll check phone messages or emails to your phone. Will I find a relationship? It seems to me, Samantha, giving yourself to another man is more than just bed. I understand you, and I see how I ruined everything. It started about 3 months before the incident, before my 40th birthday. I felt old, but when he found out that I was turning 40, he began to tell me how young I looked. I know it's wrong, but I liked it. I felt sexy, and he continued to flirt. And I understand that this does not justify me. You are the only man I have ever been with now. After 20 years, I feel like a schoolgirl again. He was constantly trying to talk me into dinner, and his constant flirting made me feel even sexier. Today, when he offered me lunch, he took me straight to his hotel room and told me he was pointing to room service. It only took a few minutes before he seduced me, and since then I have regretted my actions every minute. I swear it only happened once, and I will never do anything like that again. Samantha, I noticed how much you enjoyed dancing and flirting with young guys at the office birthday party. You remember our conversation about this, I'm sure. Well, since you started working out at the gym with Dorothy, honestly having said that, I'm not new to liking Samantha and who she has become. If only you had told me this. Instead of looking for something outside of our marriage, I don't want to live with a woman. My back and I lost. I am losing confidence in myself, in our marriage, in my trust in you, and in our life together. This is not the best recipe for a healthy marriage. I'm not sure there's anything you can do to fix the situation, or if it can ever be fixed. We ate in silence, digesting the conversation. Wayne looked hopeful when we walked into the house, but I just shook my head. I thanked him for looking after the kids and went to my bedroom alone. Mary saw Samantha's tears and realized that nothing had changed. In fact, we auditioned. A month later, Samantha surprised me when she told me she had made another dinner reservation. This time, she took the initiative and started a conversation. "Martin, you were right about everything. Over the past 2 years, I lived without you and thought only about myself, trying to get my body in shape. What I did is unforgivable, and I can't change it, but let me explain how I'm going to make it right," she said, trying to remain calm. "I saw a therapist to help me deal with the guilt I felt about my actions. Every night I cry thinking about how I could have lost my son and ruined the relationship with the man I love. The therapist became my salvation, helped me realize all the pain that was caused by my selfish actions, and explained to me the reason for my actions. The wrong choice. I wanted to be in shape, but when I was overweight, because I attracted the attention of men, which made me feel young, sexy, and desirable, which did not help when I turned 40. I noticed that she was struggling to think, holding herself, and just remained silent as she continued. The worst part is, I loved our life, our children, and our marriage. It all started with innocent flirting. Then you noticed something at my birthday party, but of course I didn't pay attention to it. I don't see myself for what I did, and now realize that it wasn't me, and I want you to know how sorry I am for the pain that caused you, and the harm I caused to all my son. The pain I experience every day cannot be expressed in words. It never occurred to me to express my love for you, or discuss our marriage. All my actions were purely selfish. I thought that they only showed slightly in what I thought my dignity was. My words cannot be justified, and I do not hope for your forgiveness because I broke my promises, betrayed your trust and love. If you decide to tell after everything I've done, I'll be sad, but your happiness is more important, and you earn to be with someone you can trust. I am accused of bringing you back, but I am ready to accept your decision, no matter how it is going to be. Martin, the last time we had dinner, you told me that I had done nothing to save our marriage. I told you that I was so worried about our son that I didn't know how to help us. From the moment I tried, I showed you that I am doing everything possible to get you back." In a serious tone, she continues, "First of all, today I applied for introduction and will become a housewife. I will constantly monitor Philippe, and we can succeed without daytime nannies, about his influential position in society and the church, so he called the supplier and threatens to end the cooperation if he does not fire David immediately. After that, I went to my wife Patricia Kelly and apologized for our behavior. When I told her the whole story and how I tried to restore our relationship, she became much more parliamentary than I could have expected. I started crying because I felt terrible. Patricia thinks to calm me down by saying that it's not my fault because David was known for his ability to seduce women. However, it should provide more support to the men I love. She wished me luck in our relationship and warned me that this was the last time this would happen. I realized that she had contacted a lawyer. After this conversation, I called Dorothy and canceled my gym membership. I also decided to continue therapy. I realized that I was an adult woman with a family that needed my care, and I decided to become a better wife and mother if I had the opportunity again. I also delivered all the new clothes, leaving only a few items that were more suitable for women my age. This conversation gave me some hope. She added, "I've read 10 articles about restrictions in the last few weeks. I even read several stories about wives taking polygraph tests to answer all the questions of their offended husbands. Judging by what I read, there are about 20 standard questions that needed to be answered. Last week, I made an appointment at an office downtown that specializes in polygraph testing and asked to be asked all these questions. Oh, wow, I thought I could wave to you and answered them honestly." In desperation, she said, "This envelope contains the answers to your questions. I want you to understand that I did not look at them and did not look at the results. I know the truth, and I am confident that this data confirms my complete honesty. I have already asked an attorney to prepare a postnuptial agreement to demonstrate my seriousness and regain your trust. I'm making a mistake again. I'm looking at the remains over the children and leaving our home without support and food. I realize that I am now standing in front of you in the eyes of others, but I accept it, despite how unpleasant it sounds, and I promise I always put you first." Tears flowed from her eyes onto the table. "In this envelope, you will find a postnuptial agreement along with the results of the polygraph test." I sat stunned by her actions and revelations. My wife realized how valid this is in our family and marriage. "Well, Samantha, I can't help but admit that your actions surprise me. This makes me think, but I have one serious question. Why are you so insistent on saving this marriage? Now, with your good looks and beautiful appearance, you can choose any man. You've already shown that you want more than I can give you credit for, forgiveness to get rid of this guilt." "No, it's not like that. I want us to come back because I love you. You were with me when I was sick, took care of me, healed me, and never complained all these years. You were always there, and I always felt your unconditional love. And honestly, you always helped me in sex. You made me happy. I accepted it as I should have, and stopped thinking about anyone but myself, and there will be nothing more." Now she was sobbing incessantly in the restaurant and hiccuping from heavy crying. Other visitors noticed us. I walked over to her, hugged her, and held her while she cried on my shoulder. My heart was breaking again from her pain, and I didn't know how much longer you could stand these emotions. When she had calmed down, she handed me a manila envelope and told me to read the report that evening when I was alone in bed. This aroused my curiosity, and I began to wait to see what was written there. Just before we pulled into the driveway, she looked at me with the most steady, sad eyes I've ever seen and whispered, "Please don't go, Martin. Don't leave us and our home. I'm ready to die, in the guest room, unless you want me in your bed. I just want to be with you, and for our family to be together again." To my father, entering the house, Daria hopes to him that we will be together again. When I showed up in my room, took a shower, brushed my teeth, got into bed, and looked at the envelope, I asked questions. What answers should I find inside? When I opened the file, I was struck by the abundance of detail in the printing test report. I realized that the answers in America determine our future as spouses. I looked through all the questions and answers, studied the data, and drew conclusions. It is obvious that she did thorough research and that all my questions were answered and are now in my hands. I was not sure of my support, but soon I would find out the truth. Here are some results. There were several issues with no clear connection between them that I did not bring up. The questions seemed to be jumbled together, not following any simplified order so that she could not predict the next step. It amused me how I could tell from the wording of the questions that the author was Samantha, since a real printing expert would not ask questions that way. "Your name is Samantha, friend?" "Yes," followed by several introductory questions. "Have you changed your husband and family?" "Yes." "Do you love David?" "No." "Do you want to be with David again?" "No." "Do you have any feelings for David?" "No." "Did you have sexual intercourse with him?" "Yes." "Did you use drugs or alcohol?" "No." "Are you planning this event?" "No." "Was this your first time with David?" "Yes." "Did he use a condom?" "Yes." "Have you reached orgasm?" "Yes." "Was your orgasm better with David?" "No." "Was he a better lover than your husband?" "No." "Was he more attractive than your husband?" "No." "Was this your first sex with David?" "Yes." "Have you dealt with other forms of differences?" "No." "Have you kissed David?" "Yes." "Have you kissed him before this day?" "No." "Earlier, did you ask him to touch you?" "No." "If you hadn't been caught, would you have done it again?" "No." "Since your marriage, have you made love with anyone else?" "No." "Do you love your husband?" "Yes." "Is your main husband something that made you change him?" "No." "Do you want a divorce?" "No." "Do you consider your husband attractive?" "Yes." Would you like to be with someone else? No. Are you ready to do something so that Martin will forgive you? Yes. After reading the answers, I fell asleep that night, still doubting my future, but somehow the answers to these questions brought me some relief. The next morning, I spoke with my children and gave them some information about the extent of her betrayal, as well as her actions to correct the situation. Since we were still a family, I wanted them to contribute to our future. Children, as you already know, I was planning to move and find an apartment, but last night your mother asked me to stay. I want this family to heal and get through this, but I need to know what you thought. Can we forgive our mom, take her back, and work on a theme to bring our family together? We all make mistakes, and Mom is making a big mistake, but I believe she has another chance. Solutions. I looked at my son and said, Philip, you suffered physically because of your mother's mistake. How do you feel about what I said? Dad, it's not Mom's fault, it's my own fault. I shouldn't have gone home. It's my fault that I didn't listen to the ban on returning. If I had stayed somewhere else then, we would all have been happy. It's my fault, he exclaimed. It broke my heart to see my son take responsibility for all the problems that happened that day. I was proud that he was able to take on this burden and stand up for his mother, and I rubbed him on the head. Son, let's not talk about wine. This is the past, and we need to focus on the present and the future. Only what we do now matters. The girls started talking. Dad, we don't want you to divorce Mom. Yes, we are still angry, but if there is an opportunity to forgive her, we want to stay together as a family. Please, Dad, don't get a divorce. Let's give her another chance. Honestly, I'm not sure if this is possible right now, but maybe there is a way to save our family. You see, if I stay in this house, there will be problems between me and your mother. The room, the love we once shared has shattered, and we may never be the same again. Dad, we understand, but it will be much better if you both are here with us rather than leaving. Maybe in time, we can all get things back to the way they were. Now, I was proud of my girls and equally proud that we raised good children. At that moment, I knew that we would try to save our family and forgive. We all went to Samantha's room, told her we wanted to have a family meeting, and asked her to join us. Samantha behaved horribly. She had bags under her bloodshot eyes and was clearly stressed and crying. Because of the coldness of the party, her family's life turned into a living hell. Oddly enough, one person who talked to her and finally forgave her was Philip, her son, who suffered the most. He was the first to forgive his mother. It was our first family meeting since the incident, and Samantha was nervous, sitting alone on the couch. I walked over and sat next to her and took her hand, knowing this would be a difficult conversation. I will speak for all of us, Samantha. What you did damaged this family and forced me to make the hardest decision of my life. You may not like what I decided, but there is no other choice. Like a man. I watched as she sat quietly, hands clasped resolutely in her lap. The children have made their wishes known and their desire for our family to live together. Up until last night, I didn't think there was a way to encourage me to leave and move into a new apartment. But after I read the polygraph report and what you did to save our marriage, I was touched. Samantha, to be frank, your words of remorse and actions have made me reconsider my decisions. Your betrayal brought us a lot of pain, but the true damage was in the way you treated me and our family over the past 6 months. After learning that you were moving away from even the thought of leaving us and meeting another man, I realized that it was time for me to end our marriage. In addition to my anguish, I was filled with rage as I realized that your betrayal was partly responsible for Philip's trauma. It was unforgivable. I saw a tear roll out of her eyes and continued, After careful consideration, I came to the conclusion that if I were to find myself in a similar situation and become the cause of Philip's misfortune, then your regime would not leave a chance for discussion. You would. I was kicked out a long time ago. However, for some reason that I cannot understand, I still love you and losing you would cause me even more pain than what you have already caused. This is our personal quagmire. The love for you is still strong. Today we have come together to discuss our future as a family. Since this is a crucial decision, it was important for me to hear from our children. And as a family, we finally decided that the perpetrators should die together and work towards healing. She seemed relieved, and a smile appeared on her face. "You don't look happy yet. You see, despite our desire to stay together, I cannot continue, by the way. The fact that you broke trust, did not keep your promise to be faithful, and left us all in disbelief. You broke the terms of our agreement, and if I stay with you, it will mean that I agree with this behavior. It may seem cruel, but I am still getting over our breakup." Her smile instantly turned into an expression of horror, and tears streamed down her cheeks. "Let me finish before I lose control of the electricity. Like I said, I still love you, and I don't want our affair to end." Now she looked at me with a confused look. "We'll get a divorce and start over if that's still what you want. Nothing changes about our living arrangements, and we'll continue to date and work together on our future. Starting over again makes me understand why it's important for you to stay, but not we will have the freedom to behave as we are alone, and we can date other people, and I will also have the freedom to choose." When I explained our future, everyone looked at me. Do not misunderstand me. I don't want to date anyone else, but we both know you've gone beyond the boundaries of our marriage before, and I can't let you do that again. If that happens, I will also want to have the freedom to look for someone else. I had to pause to swallow, because my mouth was dry and my emotions were running high. The next 6 months to a year are about letting both of us know what you really want in your life. It will also give me time to analyze if I accept the fact that you need another man in your life. I haven't mentioned this before, but your betrayal has damaged my confidence and self-esteem, and I will need to rebuild that before I can trust you again. I liked your idea after the prenuptial agreement and almost disagreed with it. But I have realized that staying married on these terms is a justification for your action, and I wonder if you want something more than I can offer. According to our plan, you will be free to make your decisions for the future. Depending on how our relationship turns out, I may try to trust you again, Tin. If all goes well, at our wedding we will sign a prenuptial agreement and make new promises. Yes, we will have a public wedding ceremony. We will dedicate ourselves again to each other. Continuing my words, I said, I will be required to undergo counseling soon. I will also find a specialist to help me deal with my anger and trust issues. Need professional help. It would be a good idea to separate, but I love you and want to fight for our marriage. You should also work on your relationship with your parents. If you want to save our family, last night you promised to do your best. If you're still feeling this way, be prepared for a long road to recovery." I paused, giving everyone a moment of realization, and silently watched until the silence became unbearable. "So, Samantha, are you still ready to go all out? Do you still want the accused to save this marriage?" Samantha, with open tears, covered her face with her hands. "Yes, I love you. I don't want to leave you, but I understand your feelings. Thank you for your understanding. I know I didn't get a second chance. I thought about your words, and if everything was, give me one more chance is all I ask, and I will prove to you that you are all I need and no one else. It's up to both of us. I'm so sorry, and I pray that when someday you have forgiven me for my actions." I stood there as the girl came up and hugged her mother. I took Philip's hand, and for the first time in several months, we were together again. At that moment, we knew we had turned the corner and were stronger after all this drama. Epilogue: It took me over 5 months to allow her back into our bed. She deserves some respect. She made every effort to regain my trust and love. I won't go into detail, but she revealed that her main goal was to reunite our family. After a long recovery, traveling around Europe and family outings, she returned to us all together. Since then, we spend every free minute together, like a real family. Over the course of a year, Samantha came to my bed several times, But this was only a way to ease our sexual frustration. We didn't make love. Our meetings never lasted more than a few minutes because my mind was busy discussing this terrible day. Neither of us had dated anyone else or even discussed the possibility. My therapy sessions helped me accept and hold on to everything, restoring my confidence. Having lost interest in making love to Samantha, I was finally able to enjoy and get some sexual pleasure, but making love took much longer. After 10 months, we had achieved perfection in bed, but it would be several more years before we could reach the level of sophistication that once existed between us. Her betrayal left me with unhealed wounds that are still not healed. Samantha promoted her devotion by showing that she belonged completely to me and was not interested in anything else. Her love and support helped me restore my confidence and self-esteem to acceptable levels, and I finally felt happy again. A year after our meeting, we arranged a small wedding ceremony with friends, relatives, and children. We exchanged vows and signed a marriage contract. During the low-key reception, she responded with a short speech, apologizing for her actions that had hurt the entire family and expressing gratitude for the support. She allowed her to become a caring mother and a faithful wife. There were many happy tears that day, and I felt some of them flow from my eyes. During our reconciliation, Samantha became less sociable and suffered from pangs of conscience. She realized how much I suffered because of her infidelities. We remained happily married for the next 30 years. We saw our children create their own families and become parents. In general, our life was full of happiness, and the events of such a tragic day remained in the past and were no longer discussed. David made amends for the damage he caused to my family and marriage. His wife kicked him out and filed for divorce soon after Samantha confessed to her misdeeds. He ended up living in a studio apartment. After paying child support, David led a miserable life. Due to child support payments and the fact that he was only allowed to see his children on weekends, he remained destitute and depressed. His suffering increased when he learned that his ex-wife was dating the children of a rich man and how much they became attached to him. Weekend on a yacht, trips to Disneyland and Universal. The studios only increased his dependence and grief as he realized that the children's future stepfather had become a better person. David continued to experience failures at work, just as he had screwed everything up. His relationships with women did not last long, as they were the only ones who found out about his past infidelities. He preferred to date married women because they seemed like easy prey to him due to his good looks and charm. This was his way of life. One night, as he was leaving a club, he was knocked down by another man, embittered by his actions. He endured check-in protocols, multiple fractures, mild collapse, and 3 days of hellish pain before he passed away. His death was full of suffering and loneliness. Since he had no close relatives to tend to his remains, the state finally cremated him and buried him with other unused bodies in a mass grave. I learned about David's problems from his ex-wife, who believed that it would help the affair survive for my wife. It was immature of us, but I happily shared all the details of his terrible demise with Samantha. To her credit, she showed no emotion and never once proved this coexistence. David's ex-wife was right. Hearing about his death at the hands of another protesting husband really helped me get through this episode, and our relationship, Samantha, has become much better. We no longer discussed the past and focused on our new marital status. We worked hard to maintain the most important role in life for us. Eventually, Philip made a full recovery and, thanks to years of physical therapy, began exercising. He received a full scholarship to play baseball and became a home run and stolen base coach for schools around the state. The girls got married and never repeated the mistakes of their mother. They explained the pain and suffering that can result from one wrong decision, and they have become devoted women and mothers.